Picture a life where you no longer feel the need to chase after applause, likes, or recognition. A life where your inner calm remains unshaken by the constant noise of the world, and your direction is not borrowed from other people's opinions, but guided by your own heart. Imagine waking each morning, not to a storm of expectations, but to a stillness inside you, a gentle presence that's always been there, waiting for you to listen. Now envision this. You stand in your own company, yet you are not lonely. You've released what weighs you down, and in that sacred silence, something new begins to stir. Clarity, resilience, and an unshakable truth. In the teachings of the Buddha, transformation does not blossom in the crowd's approval, but in the quiet of solitude where your spirit can finally breathe freely. This is not isolation, it is renewal. This is the ground where healing begins, where you rediscover the strength that was never lost, only forgotten. And it starts here, with 12 timeless Buddhist principles, wisdoms that will clear your mind, refresh your spirit, and guide you back home to the person you've always been. Principle 1. Release the illusion of control. Much of human suffering comes from grasping at control over things that were never truly ours to command. We long for people to act the way we think they should. We want our lives to unfold according to carefully drawn plans. We expect the world to move in harmony with our desires, and when it doesn't, we feel crushed by frustration, fear, or disappointment. But reality is far more fluid than our expectations. We cannot shape another person's thoughts or bend time to our will. The future refuses to follow our scripts. Life shifts like the wind, sudden, unpredictable, and beyond the reach of our grip. Buddhism reminds us that suffering does not come from life itself, but from the stories we attach to it, the rigid belief that things must happen a certain way. The Buddha once taught, "You only lose what you cling to." The tighter we hold onto our expectations, the sharper the pain when life does not comply. Yet, when we soften our grip, something unexpected happens. We begin to see life not as an enemy to control, but as a companion to walk with. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means releasing the heavy burden of trying to choreograph every detail of existence. Stop forcing outcomes. Stop trying to rescue everyone from their own path. Stop demanding perfection. When you stop fighting reality, the war inside you ends. And here lies the paradox. In surrender, you do not become powerless. You discover your true strength. For the only thing you can ever truly command is your own response. That is where freedom lives. Not in controlling the waves of life, but in learning to surf them with balance and grace. Principle 2. Choose presence over distraction. In the modern world, escape is always just one tap away. The moment discomfort appears, we reach for glowing screens, endless playlists, scrolling feeds, or conversations that fill the silence. These escapes seem harmless, but over time they weave a subtle trap, the habit of avoiding yourself. Slowly, stillness begins to feel threatening. Silence becomes unbearable, and without realizing it, you drift further from the person within. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that transformation begins not in running away, but in returning inward. Why does sitting with yourself matter so deeply? Because beneath the restlessness lies truth. Beneath the ache lies clarity. Even the feelings you've buried, loneliness, guilt, regret, are not there to harm you. They are messengers, pointing you back to what needs to be seen. When you sit without reaching for the phone, without numbing your thoughts with constant noise, a doorway opens. You realize you're not hollow. You are simply unattended. You are not broken. You are simply waiting to be heard. The silence you once feared becomes the medicine you need. At first, it will feel awkward. The quiet may roar, and emotions may rise like waves. Let them come. Watch them as clouds drift across the open sky, appearing, changing, dissolving. Do not fight them. Do not label them. Simply witness. Because in that sacred witnessing, something extraordinary happens. You rediscover yourself. You remember that who you are was never lost, only hidden beneath distractions. And this gentle return to presence is the very beginning of healing, the root of every transformation. Principle 3. Welcome the pain that reshapes you. Our first instinct is to run from pain. We treat it like an enemy to defeat, something to numb, something to bury. Yet in the lens of Buddhist wisdom, pain is not a curse. It is a teacher. It is a mirror reflecting what is hidden. It is the crack through which light slips into the soul. True growth rarely wears the mask of comfort. It often arrives disguised as loss, confusion, or collapse. But just as the seed must split apart before it can touch the sun, so too must parts of us break open before we can rise into who we are meant to be. Pain is not here to punish. It is here to carve, to sculpt, to awaken. When you allow yourself to sit with suffering, rather than numbing or fleeing from it, you begin to hear its language. That heartbreak, it revealed the depth of your love. That failure, it uncovered a strength you didn't know you carried. That silence, it exposed the wounds within you that long for healing. Avoiding pain may shield you temporarily, but it also keeps you from becoming whole. The shift begins when you ask not, "Why is this happening to me?" but rather, "What is this here to teach me?" In that reframing, pain is no longer a prison. It becomes a pathway. The most peaceful souls are not those who were spared suffering, but those who sat with their grief, bowed to it, and let it refine them into something new. So instead of rushing to escape the fire, step into it. Let it burn away the self that clung too tightly, feared too deeply, or doubted too often. From those ashes, you will rise, not shattered, but purified, stronger, clearer, wiser. This is the hidden gift of pain. When you meet it with presence, it does not just break you, it remakes you. Principle 4. Simplify to awaken the spirit. We live in a world that constantly whispers more. More possessions, more status, more activity, more noise. Simplicity, in such a culture, can seem like weakness, like you're falling behind. Yet in the heart of Buddhist teaching, simplicity is not regression. It is a return to peace, a return to clarity. Ask yourself, how many things are you carrying right now that you do not truly need? Not just the objects gathering dust in your home, but the endless commitments filling your calendar, the digital noise crowding your attention, the unresolved emotions you drag behind you, and the people whose energy drains more than it uplifts. Each one is a quiet weight, pulling you further from your center. The Buddha taught that craving is the root of suffering, not just the hunger for wealth or recognition, but the restless urge for more in every form. True transformation is not found in constant addition, but in courageous subtraction. Begin with a simple question. What is essential to my peace? Clear the clutter from your space so your eyes can rest. Release the overcommitments so your body can breathe. Choose fewer relationships, but let them be deeper, truer. Simplify your thoughts. Let go of stories that no longer serve your becoming. Living with less does not strip life of joy, it reveals it. With less clutter, you find more space for reflection. With less noise, you hear more of your own heart. With fewer distractions, your energy flows where it matters most. Simplicity is not emptiness, it is spaciousness. It is the sacred clearing where your spirit rises, unobstructed by pressure or performance. When life is no longer crowded with excess, you begin to hear the gentle sound of your own soul again. And in that sound lies your greatest amplification, the reminder of who you truly are. Principle 5. Step into the seat of the observer. One of the most liberating insights from Buddhist wisdom is this: you are not the storm of your thoughts, nor the flood of your emotions. You are the sky that holds them. Yet most of us forget. A single rude remark, an old memory, or a sudden fear can set fire to our nerves. Anger seizes the body. Anxiety races through the chest. Sadness pulls like a weight. And before awareness even arrives, we've reacted. Words spoken, choices made, that deepen the very suffering we long to escape. But there is another way. The path of mindfulness teaches us to stop clinging to the waves and instead notice them passing. Emotions rise like clouds in the open sky, temporary, shifting, dissolving. You do not need to chase them. You do not need to wear them as your identity. You can watch. You can breathe. You can remain steady. Of course, the beginning feels difficult. The mind insists on defending itself. The ego rushes forward to fight. The pain within longs to be heard. But the moment you pause, even for a breath, you reclaim your strength. Between the spark of a trigger and the flame of your reaction, there exists a sacred space. And in that space lives your freedom. Anger itself is not the enemy, nor is fear, nor even sorrow. They are simply visitors. The danger lies in mistaking the visitors for the homeowner. So when anger knocks, you greet it. I see you, anger. When fear trembles in, you acknowledge, you're here, fear. Then you breathe. You allow. You let them pass over you like a wave rolling to shore. Not through you, not as you. This is the essence of emotional mastery. Not suppression, not resistance, but awareness. The strongest person is not the one who strikes hardest or reacts quickest. True strength belongs to the one who can stand still in the storm, long enough to choose peace over chaos. Be the observer, not the reactor. When you do, life begins to change, not because the world stops provoking you, but because you no longer hand your power to every passing cloud. You remain the sky, vast, unshaken, and free. Principle 6. Release the self that no longer belongs to you. Each of us carries an old version of ourselves, a self crafted from wounds, rejections, and fears. Perhaps it's the one that whispers, "You're not enough," or the one convinced, "You'll always fail." It might be the self born from betrayal, from criticism, from abandonment, the one that learned to shrink, to please, to doubt. Over time, that self becomes so familiar that you mistake it for who you really are. You begin to wear its labels like skin. I'm just anxious. I'm the one who always messes up. This is simply who I am. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us of a liberating truth. The self is not a solid stone. It is fluid, impermanent, ever-changing. You are not chained to a single identity. You are allowed to evolve. To grow, you must loosen your grip on the self that no longer serves your becoming. Let go of the version that doubts your worth. Let go of the version that keeps replaying old pain. Let go of the version that bends itself smaller to be accepted. Do not resent that old self. It was doing its best. It carried you through difficult seasons. It kept you alive when you didn't yet know how to thrive. But now, you are ready for more. Growth is the art of releasing an identity carved from wounds so you can step into one sculpted by wisdom. And this does not happen in one grand leap. It happens moment by moment. Each time you speak to yourself with kindness instead of criticism. Each time you stop repeating the story of your pain. Each time you walk with your head lifted, not from arrogance, but from remembrance of your worth. Letting go of the old self is not about becoming someone else. It is about returning to the essence of who you were before the world covered you with labels. Breathe deeply. Forgive the version of you that only knew survival. And with each step forward, whisper to yourself, I am free to grow beyond who I once was. Principle 7. Discover the strength of walking alone. Life will present seasons when the crowd disappears. Friends fade into distance, relationships unravel, support grows silent, and you are left standing in what feels like emptiness. In those moments, it's easy to ask, why has everyone left me? Yet, in Buddhist wisdom, solitude is not a curse, it is sacred ground. When you walk alone, free from the noise, free from the pressure to perform, free from the weight of pleasing others, you encounter someone you may have overlooked for far too long: yourself. The modern world insists that constant connection is strength, but connection without self-knowledge is confusion. It leaves you living for others, saying yes when you ache to say no, molding yourself into shapes that don't belong to you. Solitude strips away the illusions. In the stillness, you hear your own voice again. You rediscover your values, your longings, your wounds, your hidden strength. Remember, even the Buddha stepped away from the comfort of his palace and into the silence of solitude. Beneath the Bodhi tree, he met himself fully, and there, awakening unfolded. Alone is where the masks fall. Alone is where the real work begins. There is no audience clapping, no guide pointing the way, only you showing up for your own soul. Understand this clearly. Walking alone is not the same as being lonely. It is learning to stand on your own ground without craving someone else's shadow. It is learning to breathe in your own company as though sitting with a lifelong friend. When you no longer depend on applause to feel worthy, when you can be at peace without constant company, you step into a rare kind of wholeness. So if your path feels quiet right now, if the silence feels heavy, do not mistake it for punishment. It is preparation. For those who learn to walk alone discover an unshakable freedom, the kind of freedom that blossoms into the greatest treasure of all: inner peace. Principle 8. Practice mindfulness, not multitasking. In today's culture, multitasking is celebrated as though it were a mark of greatness. The more plates you can keep spinning, the more accomplished you appear. Yet what is rarely spoken is the cost. The more pieces you divide your attention into, the less of yourself you offer to each moment. You eat while scrolling through endless feeds. You listen while crafting your reply instead of truly hearing. You walk while your thoughts scatter in every direction, but the ground beneath your feet. But ask yourself, are you really living, or simply existing on autopilot? Buddhism points us toward a different way, the way of mindfulness, to be fully present in whatever you are doing, however ordinary it may seem. When you eat, just eat. Taste the flavors without distraction. When you listen, just listen. Let the words land without preparing your defense. When you walk, just walk. Feel the earth carrying you with each step. Why does this matter? Because a divided mind leads to a divided life. Scattered attention creates scattered energy. And when you race through every moment, you pass by the quiet treasures it carries, the lessons, the beauty, the small wonders that only appear to those who pause. Mindfulness gathers you back to the only time that truly exists, now. It soothes the nervous system, clears the fog of overthinking, and roots you in the present. You notice the sweetness of fruit on your tongue, the cool breeze brushing your skin, the rise and fall of your own breath. Life stops being something you chase in the future. It becomes something you can touch in this very second. Even the simplest acts can transform when touched by awareness. Washing dishes becomes a meditation in rhythm. Sipping tea becomes a prayer of gratitude. Folding laundry becomes a practice of presence. So let go of the race to do more. Stop scattering yourself across 10 directions. Slow down. Return to this moment as though it were sacred, because it is. When you trade multitasking for mindfulness, you don't just finish tasks. You rediscover life itself. Principle 9. Surrender to what is. Act on what can be. One of the greatest sources of human suffering is the quiet war we wage against reality. We replay old mistakes, clutch regrets, fuel anger, and wrestle with circumstances that refuse to bend to our will. Yet the truth is simple. Healing never comes from resisting what has already unfolded. Buddhist wisdom calls us to a delicate balance, acceptance and action, to bow to what is real and to step wisely toward what can still be changed. Acceptance is not surrendering your power, nor is it passivity. It is the strength to make peace with this moment before deciding your next step. When you fight the unchangeable, you exhaust yourself. When you accept it, your energy is freed to move with clarity. Acceptance does not mean tolerating injustice or staying silent in the face of harm. It means refusing to waste your life wishing the past were different or trying to choreograph every outcome of the future. Instead, pause and ask, can I change this? If yes, act, but act from steadiness, not panic. If no, release, breathe, and trust the unfolding of life. True action is born not from frantic resistance, but from still awareness. When you accept the ground beneath your feet, the path ahead becomes clearer. Here is the shift. You are no longer a victim of circumstances, circling endlessly in worry or regret. You begin to move forward, not with fear, but with calm resolve. Peace, after all, is not the absence of storms. It is the presence of inner clarity within them. So when life feels heavy, carry this mantra within you. I will accept what is, and I will change what I can. In that simple vow lies the power to transform not only how you face challenges, but how you live your entire life. Principle 10. Choose compassion, beginning with yourself. It's natural to feel compassion when others stumble. We offer soft words, patient understanding, and gentle presence. But when the mistake is ours, the tone shifts. We turn into our own harshest judge, replaying every error, tightening impossible standards, and punishing ourselves long after the moment has passed. We think this harshness will make us stronger, yet in truth, it only suffocates our growth. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that compassion must begin at home, and that home is your own heart. To practice self-compassion is not to excuse carelessness, it is to recognize that you are human, walking a path where falling is part of learning. Progress is never a straight line. Some days you move forward with ease, other days you circle back, but all of it belongs to the journey. When you fall short, speak to yourself as you would to someone you deeply care for. You're trying. You're learning. You still matter. The voice you carry within becomes the atmosphere you live in. If it is harsh, your spirit hides in the shadows. If it is kind, your spirit begins to bloom. Think of a child learning to walk. When they fall, you don't scold them. You encourage them to rise again. Why should you treat yourself with less tenderness than you would a child? Even in your darkest moments, you are not broken. You are becoming. Even in your mistakes, you are not a failure. You are being shaped. Compassion is not weakness. It is the strength to face yourself with open eyes and open hands. The moment you stop waging war against yourself, your energy is freed for what truly matters, healing, growing, and moving forward with clarity. So pause for a breath. Place your hand over your heart. Remind yourself softly, I am still learning. I am still worthy. I am still becoming. In that simple act of kindness, transformation begins, not through force or punishment, but through gentle understanding. This is the soil in which true growth takes root. Principle 11. Break the cycle by breaking the thought. Each day, thousands of thoughts move through your mind, some gentle, some useful, and others quietly destructive. Thoughts like, I'm not enough. I always fail. Nobody understands me. Why even try? The more these thoughts repeat, the more convincing they seem. And slowly, without realizing it, you stop just thinking them. You start believing them. Once belief takes root, it shapes how you feel, the choices you make, and the life you live. Buddhist wisdom teaches that our world begins in the mind. The Buddha once said, "We are what we think. With our thoughts, we create the world." Look closely, and you'll see how true this is. A fearful mind walks with hesitation, bracing for disaster. An angry mind carries conflict into every room. A mind obsessed with lack never feels at home in abundance. But here's the gift. Thoughts are not fixed realities. They are habits, mental grooves carved by repetition, and habits can be unlearned. The mind can be retrained. The first step is awareness. You must notice the thought before it hardens into belief. When a limiting thought appears, pause. Don't rush to obey it. Instead, question it. Is this true? Is this useful? Is this helping me grow? Most of the time, you'll see it for what it is. An old echo, not a present truth. The story that whispers, "I always mess things up," can be met with a wiser voice. I've made mistakes, yes, but I've also learned, and I'm not who I was yesterday. Breaking the cycle is not just about stopping harmful thoughts. It's about planting new ones. Replace "I'm not good enough" with "I'm growing, and growth is messy." Replace "I'll never change" with "I already have, in ways I once thought impossible." And replace "It's too late for me" with "This moment is the perfect place to begin." This is not blind optimism. It's deliberate training. Just as the body needs nourishing food to thrive, the mind needs nourishing thoughts to flourish. And just as unhealthy habits take years to form, old thought patterns won't vanish overnight. Be patient. Every time you catch a limiting thought, even once, you weaken its grip. Every time you choose a kinder thought, you carve a new pathway in the brain. Modern science calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reshape itself. Buddhism has known this truth for centuries. Through meditation, you begin to notice the constant stream of thoughts and see the loops for what they are: temporary, conditioned, not absolute. In stillness, you gain space, the space to choose, to reframe, to release, to breathe instead of react. With practice, this conscious choosing becomes natural. You no longer assume that every thought is true. You stop being a prisoner of the mind and step into the role of observer. You begin thinking with intention, not just repetition. And in that shift, transformation begins. When your thoughts change, your beliefs shift. When your beliefs shift, your energy realigns. When your energy changes, your actions evolve. And when your actions evolve, your entire life begins to transform. So if you feel trapped in cycles of fear, sadness, or anger, look first to the thoughts feeding them. Ask yourself, what stories am I rehearsing? What labels no longer fit me? What thought can I choose right now that supports my healing? Because real change does not begin with a new job, a new relationship, or a new place. It begins the moment you choose a new thought. Break the cycle. Catch it. Question it. Replace it. And with time, your mind will no longer be a battlefield. It will become the most powerful ally you have. Principle 12. Return to the breath. In every storm of life, whether it is fear, confusion, or uncertainty, there remains one companion that never leaves you: your breath. It is simple, often overlooked, yet endlessly powerful. In Buddhist practice, the breath is far more than air filling your lungs. It is an anchor to the present, the doorway to awareness, and the bridge uniting body, mind, and spirit. When the world feels overwhelming, the mind scatters. It runs to the past, replaying mistakes and losses. It leaps into the future, spinning endless what-ifs. It drags you into panic, tension, and fatigue. But notice this: your breath does not live in yesterday or tomorrow. It only exists here, in this exact moment. And when you return to it, you return to yourself. For thousands of years, monks have sat in stillness, simply breathing, discovering that calm is not something you chase, it's something you breathe into being. No tools are required, no permission is needed, only the willingness to pause and notice. As you give attention to the inhale and the exhale, something shifts. Your nervous system softens, your racing thoughts slow, your heartbeat steadies. You stop drowning in the storm and become the stillness inside it. Try it now. Inhale slowly. Hold for a moment. Exhale with ease. Feel the air entering your body like a gift. Feel it leaving like a tide rolling back into the sea. In that awareness, you realize a profound truth. You are not your fear, your anger, or your sorrow. You are the presence that is breathing beneath them all. When anger rises, return to the breath. When grief weighs heavy, return to the breath. When anxiety tightens your chest, return again. The problem may remain, but your relationship to it changes. You meet it with clarity and calm instead of panic. Breath is life's most intimate teacher. In many traditions, it is said that the breath carries vital energy, prana, chi, life force. Shallow, restless breathing leaves the body scattered and drained. Deep, conscious breathing roots you, strengthens you, steadies you. Modern science now confirms what Buddhism has long known. Mindful breathing lowers stress hormones, strengthens the immune system, and sharpens focus. But beyond all research lies the sacred truth. Your breath is your direct connection to life itself. Think of this. The very first act when you entered the world was an inhale. The final act when you leave will be an exhale. And every breath in between is an invitation to begin again. So when life feels too heavy to carry, don't search outside for peace. Close your eyes. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe slowly, deeply, fully. Let each breath become your prayer, your reminder that you are alive, and this moment is enough. Make it a daily rhythm. Breathe before the day begins. Breathe when the noise of the world grows too loud. Breathe before you respond, before you choose, before you speak. One conscious breath is enough to shift your entire state. For when you guide your breath, you guide your mind. And when you master your mind, freedom begins. Not because life has become easier, but because you have become stronger within it. So keep returning to the breath again and again. Let it anchor you when the world feels uncertain. Let it teach you presence. Let it remind you of who you are beneath all the noise. Calm, aware, whole. In that still space between inhale and exhale, you meet the truest version of yourself. And that is where transformation begins. In a culture that constantly demands speed and achievement, Buddhism whispers another truth. Slow down, breathe, and come home to yourself. Transformation is not found in applause, possessions, or endless striving. It begins in silence, in stillness, in choosing to rebuild from within. These 12 principles are not mere ideas. They are invitations to release control, to sit with yourself, to honor the wisdom of pain, to simplify what is heavy, to respond with awareness, to shed the self you've outgrown, to walk with solitude, to practice mindfulness, to accept what cannot be changed, to hold yourself with compassion, to break old patterns, and to return always to the breath that carries you. You are not broken, you are unfolding. You are not behind, you are awakening. Trust the quiet process, even when it feels uncertain, even when it feels lonely, even when it feels hard. The strongest version of you is not built in the noise of the crowd. It is formed in the unseen moments, when no one is watching, when you choose to breathe, to rise, to remember. Walk this path with courage, and may every breath you take lead you closer to peace.